What's good, everybody? It's your boy back for another reaction video, and I'll be reacting to SCP-2408 Orok'S Fall Keter Metamorphic SCP. This is from the channel Vulcan. Also, this is a recommendation or request from Alpha Shocker again. I was actually, I think I've been looking at some of Vulcan's channel, and I was like, maybe do a reaction to some of these rather than just waiting for it to see if you're gonna request them or not. But you quick with them now. You quick with them. So you recommended this one. I've never actually heard this SCP. It's so many SCPs. You think you know them, but then you see a video where there's the 38 SCPs that most people don't know about, and it's a bunch, and they almost all different. Some have little, I guess, comparisons to others that, as far as like, they might have similar powers or stuff like that, but or even similar origins, but they're usually all different, or they try to make them different. They might use somebody else's SCP as a blueprint to create something else, which is kind of how art goes. But so yeah, it's been. I was gonna react to this earlier, but I've been tired. I got my second COVID shot a couple days ago. Well, I think it's 2 days now, and I've been just tired. And now I got like a fucking like my lymph node or something swollen under my arm. And I was like, oh yeah, I haven't had one of those in at least over 10 years. And the last one I used to get them a lot when I was a kid, but the last one I had was bad. I let it get real bad before I finally went to the hospital. I think I waited like 7 months until it started. My body started trying to leak it on its own. And I remember I had like a bunch of blood and pus like on my bed. I was like, what the fuck? And I went to the hospital there. First they told me, oh, it'll probably go away on its own and stuff like that. That was actually before it started leaking. He's, oh, it'll probably go away. Cause I was like, the coloration of my skin is changing. Where is that? It was like, should I be concerned about this? He's, oh, it'll probably go away, and stuff like that. And then it started leaking. I went back and it's okay. So he cut into it to drain it. And I remember that shit shot across the room. The nurse screamed because Jake just missed her. It was crazy. And they gave me like antibiotics because they cut into me. So make sure I don't get like an infection or anything. And now I am this shit in the start. I don't know if it's because I got the second shot of vaccine in my left arm, and now my lymph node swelling up today because it didn't swell up right away. It took like a day, and I started noticing discomfort on my arm, and I can see it's swollen. So hopefully it just goes away. But anyway, get off now. Orok'S Fall. See what this is about. I'm guessing somebody falls or toppled or something. So it is hot. I probably should just cut the air on. Shit. I don't like to usually cut the air on at night. So I'm like, it's kind of a waste, but maybe I turn it. Anyway, here we also, I'm drinking, so that also might be the thing why I'm hot. Probably shouldn't be drinking, so I just got that shot.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Miller, and the SCP we're going to be looking at today is SCP-2408. Object Class: Keter. Special Containment Procedures. The Foundation is to infiltrate and control law enforcement agencies in areas where GOI 0432 activity is suspected. Information regarding the anomalous activities of GOI 0432 is to be suppressed. Mobile Task Force Psi-13, Witch Hunters, has been tasked with the search for and elimination of GOI 0432 members. SCP-2408-1. In the event that a member is captured alive, they are to be thoroughly interrogated, using any means deemed necessary prior to termination. The bodies autopsied and disposed of per hazardous waste protocols. Mobile Task Force Psi-9, Abyss Gazers, is to provide security to researchers at SCP-2408-3. Individuals attempting to gain access to SCP-2408-3 are to be terminated on site. Patrols are to search for potential access points, which must be securely sealed when
The
discovered.
Foundation, they be killing people.
Armed reliquary and biological containment
site.
area 06 has been constructed beneath Moscow in order to contain and study SCP-2408-3. Description: SCP-2408 designates several anomalies associated with GOI-0432, the Hunter's Black Lodge, an anomalous criminal organization and Sarkic cult primarily active in the post-Soviet states. SCP-2408-1 are genetically normal humans capable of undergoing gross physical transfiguration. Known changes include mass increase by multiples of 2 and sometimes 3, primarily muscle. Increased bone density, an increase of testosterone production with levels approximately 6 times as great as in baseline adult males. An increase of adrenaline production with levels approximately 4 times as great as in baseline adult males. Enlargement of organs in proportion to increased mass with the exception of the testes and adrenal glands, which increase in size well beyond what would be proportional, and the brain, which does not appear to change in size. The manifestation of non-human physicalities, for example, lupine, ursine, porcine, ursine, cervine, and octopine features have all been recorded. An ability to shift between bipedal and quadrupedal movement. Amplified senses, seeing, hearing, tasting, and smelling things outside of human sensory limitations.
Become like
amplified strength,
Captain America,
speed, and regenerative ability.
Hawks,
unlike Proteus-Cronenberg syndrome, SCP-2408-1 instances are able to reverse these changes while maintaining cellular stability. It remains unknown whether or not these transformations can be maintained indefinitely. Complete transmogrification can be achieved within 10 to 30 seconds.
Damn.
SCP-2408 was discovered during Operation Falconwrath. Operation Falconwrath involved the infiltration of GOI-0432, known as the Black Hunter's Lodge or simply the Black Lodge. GOI-0432 has been linked to extortion, murder, robbery, gambling, prostitution, human trafficking, drug trafficking, weapons trafficking, and underground fighting rings. While these activities are not inherently anomalous, the anomalous capabilities of GOI-0432 has had an aberrant effect on their practice. These anomalies include the trafficking and distribution of anomalous pharmaceutical agents, primarily in the form of the anabolic androgenic steroid. The intravenous injection of triggers anomalous levels of muscle and bone growth. Continue and/or excessive use will result in Proteus-Cronenberg syndrome and/or death. Analysis suggests that this substance is harvested from the adrenal gland of an unidentified species of animal and has thus been classified as SCP-2408-2A. The trafficking and distribution of a potent narcotic and increasingly prevalent club drug. Normally sold in small glass vials, it is administered to the body through insufflation into the sinus cavities. Injection has been found to be universally fatal. Substance triggers various sensory hallucinations, increased heart palpitations, increased sexual arousal, and feelings of euphoria. Studies have shown the substance to be more addictive than heroin. These effects are non-anomalous. The substance likely created with profit in mind. But the substance itself appears to be derived from the spinal fluid of an unidentified species and has thus been classified as SCP-2408-2B. The trafficking and distribution of biological agents, including pathogens and toxins deemed anomalous by the Foundation. The creation and distribution of represents an exceptionally high-level threat, already classified as SCP. Information regarding the Red Death is presently only available on a need-to-know basis. Victims of GOI-0432 have been discovered impaled by large organic spines or completely torn apart. Cadavers display injuries suggestive of attacks by several different animals, such as bloody hoof prints, wounds consistent with goring by a horned or tusked animal, and teeth marks of a large
Sheesh.
lupine organism. The Foundation became aware of
Turn
GOI
people into
0432 in wake of the USSR's
werewolves? Like, what the
dissolution,
fuck is
when
this?
many anomalies and documents relating to anomalies were transferred to Foundation control by GRU Division P. The existence of GOI 0432 would be further corroborated by former members of GRU Division P. It appears that they were unable to fully contain or neutralize the threat presented by GOI 0432 and its associated anomalies, with one source describing the apparent destruction of the organization on several occasions, only for it to reappear months later, seemingly strengthened. Document GRU
He said,
Division
you
P,
destroy me,
Department
I will come back
5,
stronger than you
GSI,
can
Black
possibly
Lodge.
imagine.
GSI Black Lodge, Division P, Department 5, Department Head, VP9, GRU,
This really feels like
DNR,
reading like government
23,
documents.
1959. Responsible
It's like
personnel,
some of
Ivan
the
P.
stuff,
Kruppen.
the numbers
Detail.
stuff. You like, man,
GSI Black
who makes all
Lodge
these
designates
numbers? Like,
a
you're trying
criminal
to make this
organization
encrypted just to
which
read.
has augmented its illegal and deviant activity through anomalous means. GSI Black Lodge currently operates throughout the USSR, but is suspected to be headquartered in Moscow at a location referred to by the criminal class as the Old Altar. Information about this location has been primarily gathered from rights survivor Samuel T. Ankudinov, executed for criminal involvement once survival was deemed no longer necessary. Interview log. Division P, Department 5, 7-3-1959. DNR 12-3-1959. Attached to document 12-3-1959. Attached is the transcript of interview of Samuel T. Ankudinov, a former Black Lodge recruit and survival of the rights. Interviewer: due to the loss of subject's mandible, he is only able to respond via writing. Subject has little to no knowledge with regards
mandibles?
to specific anomalies and appears to have suffered a great psychological trauma from his experience. Subject was recovered by workers from the sewage systems of Moscow's Arbat district. Where is the altar?
I don't know. Below. I could not see. Blindfolded.
What did you encounter within? Tell me everything you perceived.
Old temple. Heathen. Black stone. Blood. Meat. The chanting. The drumming.
What were you forced to do?
Fight or die. No choice. For Orok. For the glory of the hunt. I was weak. Pathetic. Worthless.
How did you escape?
Among the dead. Blood-fed wraiths. Crawled away. Blood and meat and bones. Deeper. All was black. Deserved. Not strong enough. Should have been killed with honor.
Agents
So you
of
got
Mobile
off- what is
Task
this,
Force
off Fight
Psi-13
Club?
was officially tasked with
But
the
it did say they
infiltration
fight
of
it.
GOI 0432 on April
Fight
11,
Club is just one of the
1994
nefarious
as
things
part
they
of
do.
Operation Vulcanwrath. Mobile Task Force Psi-13 is a highly classified Joint Foundation Global Occult Coalition task force created as part of Project Citra Arca. Mobile Task Force Psi-13 is designed for the infiltration of Sarkic organizations and the termination of high-threat members. As part of Project Citra Arca, Mobile Task Force Psi-13 operatives are trained in counter-occult stratagems and the use of corrosive or incendiary armaments, each agent equipped with a Sig Sauer P-22-6 modified for the use of incendiary and corrosive ammunition. Under the alias Dominic Mishkin, Agent operated in Moscow as a contract killer in order to develop a criminal reputation and ultimately gain the attention of GOI 0432. On January 20th, 1995, Agent was contacted by members of GOI 0432 and instructed to visit
Красные фонари.
Red Lanterns is a popular nightclub or adult entertainment establishment located in the Golyanovo district. Employed as a Black Lodge front, it is suspected of being involved in forced prostitution, human trafficking, and the distribution of
realized it said
illegal,
Red Lanterns.
frequently anomalous, narcotics.
sense
It
that
is believed that the local law
angry
enforcement
and
has
the
not
most,
intervened due to
yes,
corruption and
evil
intimidation
of the Lanterns.
by GOI 0432. Agent was not equipped with a recording device due to the delicate nature of the mission. Instead, information was transferred to the Foundation via dead drop. Agent entered the nightclub at 9 p.m., January 25, 1995, equipped with a Sig Sauer P-22-6. He is observed being approached by a bouncer, which Agent proceeds to follow after a short conversation. An agent inside the nightclub reports seeing being escorted to an upstairs VIP suite overlooking the main floor. Agent does not exit the nightclub until 8 a.m., January 29th, 1995. A message would later be delivered to the dead drop site at approximately 9 p.m. Missive, January 29th, 1995.
Wait, he was up there, what is it, 29, so he's up there 4 days?
I apologize for the delay. I'll start from the beginning. I was brought upstairs and over to a circular table where 6 men and 1 elderly woman were seated. Otari Zver Yosava, leader of GOI 0432, sat at the far end, facing an empty chair. He told me to sit, and I obliged. Had a menacing air to him. Muscular, never removed his sunglasses. I suspect the others were higher-ups, but they kept silent for the most part. He dove right in, skipped the pleasantries, said it was nice to see someone who didn't mind doing a bit of wet work. New blood, willing to spill blood, I remember him remarking. Yosava said he was aware that I had no brothers. That was rare and dangerous to work solo in Moscow. Informed him that I received a few offers, but told those sucking bitches that they weren't worth my time. Paraphrasing his response, think you're tough? You speak brave words, but maybe you're just another stupid cunt whose luck's about to run out. He was hard to read. His tone and body language was firm, but hardly aggressive. Told him those gangs were weak. I responded, why try my luck with the lowest cards in the deck? The elderly woman leaned to Yosava and whispered in his ear. She was noticeably pale and covered with unusual tattoos. Abnormal for a Russian woman her age. Made me feel a lot more uneasy than those thugs. He said, your blood's wrong, Korova. Words stuck out to me. Hard to explain. Look it up. But you've got balls. I'll give you one chance to prove yourself. There's going to be a little initiation. A nice way to cull the pussies. Again, paraphrasing. He snapped his fingers and said, for now, we drink and be merry. A waitress delivered a bottle of vodka and several glasses. As per tradition, we poured our own shots. Yosava raised a glass, and I returned the favor, and we drank. And in a blink, I find myself tied up naked on the cold floor, a hood over my head, and a proper ball gag in my mouth.
That's when you don't take shit somebody gives.
Red lanterns is a kind of BDSM theme going on.
That's so weird.
I figured pouring my own drink would have avoided this
BDSM is
exact
not
sort
weird
of
at all.
situation. Maybe
She
the
would
bottom
drug
of the
the
glass had
walk
a
away
layer
with
of some
ball
kind of
gag.
tranquilizer. Hard to say. Doesn't matter. It all gets a lot weirder. Eventually they came for me and carted me off. It was pointless to fight it. This went on for maybe an hour or two. I remember hearing the sound of old pipes and flowing water. The air was chill and damp. There was a scent of rust and stagnant water followed by an earthly aroma. There were voices, and not all were speaking Russian. Zidas nin, Vartas exdask, well, something like that. Gibberish to me, but I'm certain it was Sarkic. They chained me by the neck to what I would later find to be a pillar or some kind of support beam. They untied the rope from my wrists and my ankles, pulled off my hood and removed the gag. I was in a dimly lit area resembling an amphitheater. Appeared fairly ancient. There were 4 other men in similar circumstances to my own, chained by the neck to the pillar. There was also a large crowd, possibly in the hundreds, observing from higher ground. Some wore red and white robes. Others were dressed in plain clothes or business attire. I felt a prick at the base of my neck, and everything after was a blur. I heard chanting. I remember skulls cracked, eyes gouged, the feel of flesh between my teeth.
So they drugged you
in celebration.
Made
Drugs,
you
food,
attack
women,
people?
and flashes of violence, not necessarily in that order. The memories are confused.
What
just
the fuck?
vague, disjointed images. I apologize for the lack of details. I awoke in my apartment, with my skin still caked in blood. Received a tattoo. Don't remember that at all, and took me by surprise. Resembles a black cyclops skull with horns and tusks. Guess they've accepted me as one of their own. I'll be sure to step out shirtless a few times. Have the surveillance ops snap a few photographs. See if it means anything. The Foundation would henceforth receive bi-weekly mission reports from Agent... Missive, February 4th, 1995.
Maybe guess he dies or something. They find out he's
Possible
old.
GOI 0432
They kill him.
front. 343
And they find him in
465,
pieces behind like a
Russian
dumpster or
Federation.
some shit.
First job was gun running. More damning violence against the Abraxas arms. Not a lot to report beyond that. In a lot of ways, the Black Lodge is like any other Bratva. They're thugs, plain and simple, and mostly driven by greed. They're also a lot nastier, which speaks volumes. You can't get much lower than Bratva. They discarded any trace of honor they had left in Serbia. The Great Mothers is certainly something you don't see in the world of organized crime. The Breivik call them hags, crones, witches, and the like, though not to their faces. The Saki influence is clear with them. 12 in number. They refer to each other as sisters, priestesses or some such. All wear the same outfits, a black seraphim, a stained leather apron, and a red and white shawl covering the shoulders and hair. Always barefooted. A lot of ink work, too. They aren't carcassists, but they still wield a great deal of clout over the Black Lodge. Missive, March 10th, 1995. Criminal Underground has a literal meaning for the Black Lodge. There's another world beneath Moscow, abandoned Soviet bunkers, the Metro 2, forgotten crypts, but it runs so much deeper than we knew. There's something downright ancient below. Suffice to say, I think Moscow was built atop a Sarkic temple. There's a dungeon, rusted torture equipment, pre-revolution.
Why are they
maybe
always
a
have
relic of
torture?
troubles. Regardless,
Why can't
it
we
looks
just
like
like
the Sarkites are continuing the tradition.
watch TV
It's
or
not
something,
nearly as
or
deep and
do
ancient
arts
as
and
that
crafts?
wretched
Always
temple.
torture involved.
Might be worth researching what buildings used to exist in the general location
Yeah,
during the
this
17th
I'm dealing
century.
with the
I don't
genitals,
know much about these places yet.
whether it's pleasurable
Information
or
seems to be on a need-to-know basis, but I think I found a weak
like,
link in their chain. One of the Great Mothers.
That's the word I'm
That's
looking for.
Golma 5. 5
just you
shows
say
signs of
destructive,
senility.
the destroying of
She's
genitals.
gentle, friendly, and more importantly, naive.
They need those.
I've been able to glean some fairly significant intelligence from her. But I can't say much truth there is to any of it.
Mutilating
To her,
us.
the Black Lodge is something both new and old. Like the other Bratva, it began in the gulags of Siberia. During Suki Boyni, Avgust Yosava, father of Otari, appears to have been responsible for the Black Lodge's resurrection in 51, something he encountered in the Siberian wilderness after leading a successful prison break. And that's when the witches sought him out, guided him, showed him what he had forgotten. I asked what she meant by that, but her mind wandered elsewhere. She seemed happy to have someone listen to her, a chance to feel nostalgic about the old ways. She told me to take this secret and handed me several old and frayed documents. Scriptures, but not the originals. Notes she must have transcribed from their primary sources. Fragmented, but something I think researchers would like to see. Going to write this all down. 5 also told me about Moscow's lost history. In another time, it was known by a different name. Orok'S Fall, a Sarkic settlement, and where the saint of war sacrificed himself for the blood of gods and tyrants. Never cared for this city. Guess there was always something sinister here. As she described the ancient city, her terminology was unusually anatomical in nature, referring to different locations as the heart, lungs, and skull of Orok'S Fall. Missive, April 18th, 1995. I'm making a special request to have my name, as well as what I've done, you'll know it soon enough, removed from the final report. If I successfully complete my mission and come out of this alive, then I request immediate application of amnestics.
He's an arm.
Most of my targets have been degenerates and criminals, potential rivals and the like. But this was different. And Otari, that sick fuck, wanted us to leave a different kind of message. There are other Saki cults in Moscow, non-Black Lodge. I'm talking oligarchs, government officials. One of them sent word that someone in the Ministry of Internal Affairs, a man named, wanted to crack down on the Black Lodge and was searching for allies among the few straight players left in this city. Target the family, a wife, a daughter. Don't kill them, make an example. Sort of scars that'll never heal.
Sheesh.
Missive, April 22nd, 1995.
Don't kill him, but traumatize
Spoke
him
with Fab again, still trying to clear my head of what happened. She's not like the others, and I'm beginning to question just how senile she really is. When she speaks of me and her faith, there is a tone of regret. I asked her more about sarcasm. Don't worry, I didn't say the S word. And when she tells me about Ion, I feel like a child again, listening to my babushka talk about Jesus and the old prophets. Whimsical, and like her, skipping over the parts that involve glorified torture and murder. I'm no researcher, historian, theologian, or whatever, but I think these cults, this sarcasm, didn't begin this way. And I suppose that goes for most religions. 5 talks about honor, friendship, virtue, and liberation. The gentle reindeer folk of Ari against the evil Deva. She's old, but I take it the faith changed long before her. Maybe she's begun to interpret the text differently. Maybe she's wrong, seeing good under layers of madness and atrocity. I can relate. It's always the same. Another failed revolution. Regardless, I suspect 5 is an aberration. Perhaps that is the reason why she's confided in me. The others talk about the Great Mothers, say they can see things. And at times I wonder if she knows who I really am. And then my training tells me to eliminate her. I think I'll ignore that training for now. Besides, no point talking at a source like her. Not yet, at least. P.S. The arena. It isn't just for initiation. Bloodsport disguised as ritual. Or maybe ritual disguised as bloodsport. 6 enter, only 1 comes out. A lot of the folks willing to pay to see and bet on it.
6-man entrance.
A beast and clean the suits of billionaires. 5's not a fan. It's like listening to people complain about the commercialization of Christmas. I know the Black Lodge has been classified as Neo-Sarkic, but the Great Mothers are pretty clearly Proto-Sarkic. They're traditional. Celebrate the high holidays and still think in terms of some greater good. The rest only care about how to make themselves stronger, wealthier, etc. Otari has an animal cunning to him, but he's hardly an intellectual. Nor does he appear to be a conquest, or at least the term hasn't been thrown around at all. Missive, May 1st, 1995. They've got me working in this dungeon, but they don't literally call it that. As I said before, I'm certain this place was in use well before the revolution. I wonder if the Tsars knew how many they more or less sacrificed atop an altar. Maybe they did. It wouldn't be a surprise. Sarcasm is a disease, and has more carriers than we ever imagined. They actually call it the basement's basement. Somehow creepier than the dungeon. Torture, information gathering, not that it's ever reliable. Examples are made. One last warning not to cross the Black Lodge. Organ harvesting.
Well, they're criminals.
You'd think these Sarkic types would have them growing from trees. Sometimes it is just to satisfy Otari's sadism. There's one cell that's different. Asked Bovic about it. Said he didn't know and that he didn't need to know. So neither did I. A heavy door, different from the rusted bars of every other cell. Built with a small slit to peer through and another for food. Inside I saw a man, or what was left of him. His face. At least the eyes and nose were gone. The whole area carved out and now just a gaping hole.
Shit, why does it make me like visualize?
Like the hole was gazing back at me. kind of like that tattoo. So they may be related. He was sitting on the floor, nude and cross-legged, a muscular body covered in tattoos, scars, and dried blood. Chain-linked hooks held his body in place, so he couldn't move even if he wanted to.
Like a Cenobite's a part of his
I
world?
honestly thought he was dead at first, but I could hear his heavy breathing and see the slow expansion and reduction of his chest. I have no idea what to make of it. Missive, May 6th, 1995. 5 let me in on a little secret. Otari has a brother by the name of Mikhail. Same father, different mother. And he's that half-dead thing in the cell. Apparently, Otari and Mikhail have somewhat of a rivalry, but that isn't why Mikhail's been imprisoned and defaced. 5 was vehement about that. It seems that Mikhail volunteered for some sort of ritual.
What? That's a ritual to have that done to you?
Not sure if it's drugs or not.
So now it gets fucked up.
I'll leave a vial with this report. I'm seeing things. The angles in the club and everything below are wrong. The architecture gives me a headache if I stare at it too long. Yesterday I worked in a bathroom stall with a half-eaten woman. The haulers at Red Lanterns, they look human one moment and the next, well, I know monster isn't really appropriate in this line of work, but I'm not sure how else to describe them. They stare at me with feral, hungry eyes. 5 once called them Rusalki. I thought she was just being figurative, and now I'm not so sure. They slither off to the back rooms with fresh meat tailing behind. They'll be back an hour later, looking satisfied, but the men that go in don't ever come out. And when I watch the
So they
pit
cannibals.
fights, there are things in the audience that aren't
Or there may
entirely
be some
human.
type of
There are
creatures
sounds
that
I
like
can't
eating
explain,
human
like
flesh.
a heartbeat. Sometimes roars, something deep from below, where all the blood and corpses go.
They sacrifice it to some type of
Agent
deity?
was declared missing in action on May 28th,
Of
1995.
He disappears.
On June 4th, 1995, after much deliberation, raids were conducted against multiple Black Lodge sites, including the Red Lanterns nightclub. During the assault, SCP-24081 were directly observed undergoing transfiguration. Despite their aggression and anomalously augmented combat prowess, the SCP-24081 threat was thoroughly neutralized through the use of incendiary armaments, with the Foundation unexpectedly suffering only minor casualties. As operations continued, it grew readily apparent that the Black Lodge had provided minimal manpower, a mere fraction of its total population in the region. The mission would result in the discovery of SCP-24083. SCP-24083 is a megalithic temple complex located within a large, deep cavern beneath the city of Moscow. Approximately 3,000 years old, it is the oldest standing structure in Russia and is the type site of the Sarkic culture group. SCP-2408's composition comes in 2 forms, inorganic and organic. Its inorganic portion encompasses the exterior and is constructed from stacked megaliths of gabbro, commonly known as black granite. Its organic portion fills the interior and is composed of bone, muscle, and viscera. Found among the grounds of the complex was a gladiatorial arena and a large altar. From the cavern ceiling dangled the remains of 12 elderly women, apparently disemboweled and hanged via their own intestines. Iron grates on the floor are similar to those found in meat processing plants and are likely designed to capture blood and general viscera. Access restricted to Level 4 or authorized Citra Arca personnel. SCP-24084 is a humanoid organism located directly beneath SCP-24083, horizontally positioned with its arms and legs outwardly extended. Entity is apparently disabled or immobile and is likely brain dead. Genetically human, albeit with many normally dormant genes being expressed. SCP-24084 displays many features that do not naturally occur among humans, save for certain genetic and almost universally fatal deformities. These include a single eye located in the center of the face,
This really sounds like some
flat nasal
Cenobite
slit
shit.
rather than a protruding nose, tusks, horns,
Except
and various other
These
corneous
are
protrusions.
humans He even
3
said like I
rows of
don't even know if
sharpened
they're human
teeth,
because he hear like
enlarged relative to
growls
its
and like it's
size,
something
and heavily muscled jaws.
underground like this shit.
Partial exoskeleton in coincidence with an endoskeleton, both skeletons being anomalously strong with a tensile strength comparable to carbine. SCP-24084's most notable anomaly is its size, with an estimated standing height of 300 meters and a weight of 70 to 72,000 tons, far larger than what should physically be possible for a terrestrial animal. Based upon the unusual
Maybe
length of
that's
its
where they
arms
getting
relative to the rest of its body,
that
SCP-24084
like
likely
steroid
moved
they
with a
use.
gait not dissimilar from that of a gorilla. Further DNA analysis resulted in the discovery of certain inconsistencies, which has resulted in the hypothesis that SCP-24084 achieved part of its anomalous biomass through the absorption of potentially more than 100,000 human and non-human organisms. SCP-24084 can only be directly accessed via 3 distinct shafts, 2 of which are equipped with mechanical lifts, analogous to those used in mining operations. Each shaft connects to a specific region of the body, for example the skull, stomach, and the groin, and it is feared that the creation of further shafts would result in structural instability, potentially endangering a large area of Moscow. The passage to the stomach, which lacks a mechanical lift, appears to directly connect to the arena, ultimately providing SCP-24084 with sustenance. The bronze tips of over 3,000 arrows, harpoons, and spears belonging to a wide range of Eurasian cultures have been extracted from its muscle tissue. An exact cause for SCP-24084's current disabled state remains unknown, and some portions of the body appear to be undergoing slow decay, while other parts appear to be regenerating. SCP-24084's body is believed to be the source of SCP-24082-A and SCP-24082-B. Evidence indicates that prior to its discovery by Foundation
As I
operatives,
figured.
certain
Gotta finish the
SCP-24082
adrenal
producing
glands.
organs and glands were surgically removed, such as the adrenal gland, pineal gland, testes, and hypothalamus, and likely smuggled out of Moscow by members of GOI 0432. The secure containment of these anomalous organic objects is of the utmost priority. At present, GOI 0432 has expanded its influence, while SCP-24082-B addiction has reached epidemic proportions, with longtime addicts developing unusual physical traits, for example leathery skin, black sclera, yellow irises, skeletal protrusions, and various other mutations. Unable to contain those addicted to SCP-24082-B, Overwatch has ordered the capture and humane termination of affected individuals at designated kill sites. Remains are to be disposed of per hazardous waste protocols
just kill
unless
them all,
authorized for
'cause we
research.
can't contain
This
them,
order
this
will
is true.
remain in effect until SCP-24082-B is properly contained and/or eliminated. This concludes today's lecture. Thank you for listening,
Damn,
if
this
indeed
is-
you still are, and you are all dismissed.
like
Goodbye.
he said, if you still are listening, he's like that was a lot to absorb. I hate when it does that. Right there, stop. I think I might have hit start stream by accident. Whew. But yeah, that is crazy. I mean, I like the angle of it's a criminal organization. It's interesting how they went from. He said the old woman who had the tattoos, like she believed in some old way of, I guess, it's kind of like what they do with what people say with young people, old people. They have more religious values back in the day and stuff like that. People nowadays don't really have those same type of values because they separated more and more away from organized religion than previous, generations and stuff like that. So it seems like the same thing going on here. Like the newer generation seems to be more, I guess, with at least with this organization, the people in this organization be more. I guess they're more like sadistic than the things they do. But you didn't say that they didn't do that before. But they still had the tattoos until clearly because the old woman has tattoos. So I don't know. Seemed like I guess they had greater like uh, religious values before, but they were still sadists. Now it just seems like the newer generation is kind of like just pushed aside all the religious stuff and said, well, let's just focus on the sadism. But that was good. That was very interesting. Like the people who do this stuff, man, like they gotta be. I'm like, are they writers? Like, I mean, I've written stuff, like, especially when I was a teenager. I wrote because I couldn't draw to save my life, but not anything substantial, like just tracing, and then finally I was able to like look at something and draw and make it look exactly like it, and then I just stopped drawing after that. But I wrote a lot of different stuff, like characters' bios with their strengths, weaknesses, relationships, backstory stuff, and then like a story combining all people I created. But I guess it's kind of like a comic book, except without the actual panels drawn. Because like my brother could draw, so I was like, oh, I could write, and then he could draw. But then I stopped doing that after so long. But, man, there's so much to unpack there. Because it seems like this organization has been around, it seems from what he said, for thousands of years. Now, they may have changed throughout the years, but they still have some of the same similarities that they've always had. And they're only about, well, he said, only about their own greed. They seem to become a criminal organization. It's also just like you see people, especially like in the U.S., they talk about, the mafia and stuff like that, or even gangs. Where it's, oh, the gangs back in the day, or the mafia. Yeah, they did criminal activity, but they were more about helping the communities and stuff like that, or whatever. And then, but the people now, the young people don't have no respect like the people back then. Like, these people still, you read up on some of the stuff, like the mafia or triads or yakuza or just old gang members. I say old, but gang members like when they not probably when they very first started, because a lot of gangs were started in the U.S. anyway to combat uh, like either police discrimination, brutality, or just bullies or whatever in the neighborhood. And it kind of just spiraled out of control and somehow into that we can make money off this by bullying people, running racketeering schemes and stuff like that. So, but it seems like in this one, we used to have respect back in my day. Like like you read up on the stuff, particularly like, the Italian mafia or the triads and the yakuza did. Like they did some horrible stuff to people that didn't see things they didn't see eye to eye with. They was like, oh, it, you you're not gonna do what we want. We gonna kill you and probably your whole fucking family. So, but I guess like especially with gangs nowadays, it's not just random shootings. So it's like, well, we didn't randomly shoot people. The people we killed with a purpose. I guess that's better. I guess it's not random, but it's like, yeah, we still kill people and massacre people that didn't agree with us, or kill judges or police officers that arrested or convicted members of our group. But yeah, that also sounds like some Cenobite shit. But then I figured when they talked about this big ass, super strong monster that seems to be comatose or whatever, or brain dead underground. So yeah, they get an adrenal or the adrenal fluid from this creature. But they also said like it was taken from some of his testes, which transformed. I guess you need a leg up on the competition. So it's like, well, might as well we can. Who that always like that always like uh and fascinated me with people who shot up like heroin for the first time, snorted cocaine or whatever, or did crack, or took opioids or opium, I should say, uh, is any drug or any drug like steroids, like where do you like what made this person think that, oh, if I inject this or snort this or whatever or smoke this, that it's gonna give me some high, like you could be, I mean, this stuff's poison. I mean, but I guess you say a lot of things are poison in large quantity, but drugs like that, most people take that shit in large. The people who don't have it regulated, don't take it to regulation. Cocaine can be in prescription drug, but it's small amounts. I'm not talking about just somebody just snorting cocaine where 60% of it's cocaine, other 40% something else, some mysterious like a mixture. I don't know what that is, but like you like how who was like, oh, this big monster down here. Let's extract fluid from his testicles or adrenal glands or what he said, penile glands or whatever, I can't remember. But extracting fluid from him, injecting it in ourselves, and see what happens. Like I'm assuming that they did this, they experimented. Because usually people experiment with things, like the Nazis or just, scientists in general, even before then, like a lot of them didn't inject themselves with stuff. They injected people who either they deemed, scourges on society or deemed themselves superior to. So it's fine to do experiments. It's just like human beings do experiments on animals. Like, yeah, they be like, we're humans and we're the dominant species on this planet. We're better than, yeah, we can put experimental makeup or shampoo on this animal that might make all their hair fall out or give them some type of skin rash or something. They be like, okay, we need to define this. You're not gonna do that. You don't think to do that with humans. I mean, some people probably would, but you go through that first, and then you start doing it with humans. So like maybe that's what it was, and then it's this thing transforms you and gives you you can transform your body, seeing that will, and give yourself enhanced strength and speed and reflexes and shit. But I mean, it changes their body. Like I said, it's very reminiscent of those plagas where if you play like Resident Evil games, like a 4 or 5, and didn't they have that in 6? They had those plagas in 6. Well, at least 4 and 5. They're those plagas where they weren't zombies because they still could think. They weren't just like driven by base instinct. But they were also, I think they were being like controlled by usually the main bad guy. But if you, especially in 6, they did do that because they talked about how if you shoot, I remember what they said in the Kennedy report, Chris was reading it. Well, it was in Chris's campaign, if I remember correctly. But if you shoot them like in the arm, their arm would, if they get substantial damage to their extremity, like their arm or something, it would grow their arm and their arm would get gigantic and muscular and be able to do like twice as much damage as before. Or if you shoot them in the leg, their whole lower body would turn into like a grasshopper for some reason, like the lower part of a grasshopper, and they could jump, and it was like kind of like armored. So then you had to shoot them the human part, or if you shot them in the head, I think it was they like no, well, they had something else, but they would turn into like some flying thing, but their upper body was still attached, and they were hanging and like randomly pulling the trigger and just shooting at random. So you had to shoot the human part, I think, if I remember correctly in that game. But like I said, it's very reminiscent of that. Whereas but and that was a parasite, like a virus in the other games. But it's like something has affected you, and any harm that comes to you, it will transform your body to be able to deal with that trauma. So somehow adding mass from nothing. I mean, like I said, that doesn't make sense. It's like the Hulk. Like how does Bruce Banner, who's like I think Bruce Banner was like 160, 100, maybe 150 pounds. But they always make it like he's a small, skinny, frail guy who turns into a slightly over 1,000 pound green Goliath who basically has unlimited strength. Like, where did that mass come from? You would think he would be if that were even possible. You would think he'd be like his hunger would go through the roof, and he would have a craving to eat any and everything to uh, compensate for the mass growth, you know. But maybe I'm talking about mass. But it's just it's like this thing. I mean, it's a steroid where you can. Did they say they can transform back into human? Which is another thing in Resident Evil, which I'm like, you transform into a creature, but now what? You transform this gigantic creature. You can't, live a normal life. I mean, you won't really live in a normal life anyway, but you can't like conduct business like you were before because now you're a gigantic creature. Like you can't go around being unnoticed, you know. But I know in Resident Evil 8, I was watching a playthrough of it, and it was some of the playthrough. I ain't look at the whole thing. 'Cause I'm planning on getting it, playing it someday. I don't know when, but someday. Which I said about all the games that I've bought in the past like 4 or 5 years that I haven't played. Like someday I'll play you. But I think I forget her name, but Lady D, her full name, but Lady D, she said that the only person who has seen her when she transforms, spoiler, she transforms into a creature. Uh, and she's well, I mean, kind of like I guess not really spoiler because people already knew that. I mean, it's a Resident Evil game. Of course, she's gonna transform into something else that's more monstrous. But she said the only person that had seen that form was the main big bad, and I forget her name, like Mother Miranda or something like that. But she said she's the only one that's seen that form. So I'm like, are they indicating that she can transform back and forth from that monstrous form back into her form that you've seen videos or memes of people that talking about they want her to step on them or sit on them. So I was like, hey, can you transform back? Because in the previous Mortal Kombat, in the previous Resident Evils, I mean, it's pretty much established that you transform, you can't shrink back into into your regular form like that. That shit's over with. Like you are now this monster. So I guess I don't know how you gonna continue to do your bioterrorism thing that you was doing as a big giant monster, but I guess maybe you can infect people. You can just do it that way. I don't know. But yeah, it reminded me of that, and it's probably what they said about how their bodies transform, stuff like that, dealing with either they can do it or dealing with trauma. Their bodies will transform, and they can transform back. But yeah, you like a steroid that I mean, it seemed to have some, I guess, side effects, but did I miss it? Or did I have to remember that? Because one said they could transform back. So I'm going off that. They can transform back. So they can transform back. I mean, that's perfect. You transform basically into a monster. Gigantic, maybe long teeth, grow another arm out your neck or some shit. But you can transform back into your regular looking self and still have the enhanced strength or whatever, speed, and senses and stuff like that. That's basically like the super soldier serum. I mean, minus the transformation part, I guess. Well, Steve Ryder did gain mass out of nowhere, but not like becoming gigantic into a gigantic like a monster like the Hulk. That's a big difference from Bruce Banner to the Hulk and Steve Ryder pre Super Soldier Serum and then Steve Ryder after. You know, so he looked much bulky and got taller. You know, so I think Steve Ryder what 5'5" or something, 5'6", and then now he's like after the super soldier serum, he's like 6'2". He's like 5'4", 5'5", weigh like 120 pounds. And then after super soldier serum, he's like 6'2", weigh like 240. In an instant. So even then, you gotta like, where did that size, that mass come from? But it's super soldier is basically, I mean, a lot of stuff is basically magic or pseudoscience or whatever. So it is whatever. You try to get bogged down in that stuff. That doesn't make sense. Like, you be here all day. Like it's fake, it's imaginary. A lot of the stuff probably could never be done in reality, but it's an escape. So, but anyway, hope you enjoyed my reaction. And if you did, make sure you hit that thumbs up button down below. Make sure to subscribe if you're new here. Hit that bell. You'll be notified when I upload new videos. Comment down below. Share this video. See y'all next time. Peace.